He had walked these halls for 7 years. Every night. Same gray uniform. Same rolling bucket. Same faint smell of pine cleaner that never quite masked the rot underneath. They called him Eddie. The quiet one. The nobody. Tonight the boardroom on the 32nd floor glowed like a beacon. 12 executives in tailored suits laughed over whiskey and signed the final papers. They were selling the entire building. His building. Eddie pushed his cart past the open door, head down, earbuds in. But those earbuds had been dead for years. He heard every word. 28 million. Cash. We strip the name, gut the upper floors, and flip it to the developers by spring. The CEO, Richard Harlan, leaned back in the leather chair that cost more than Eddie's annual salary. Shame about the old janitor though. Guy's been here forever. We'll give him a month's severance. Standard. They laughed again. Eddie's grip tightened on the mop handle until his knuckles went white. He remembered the day he bought the building. Cash. All of it. Laundered through 7 shell companies so clean even the IRS never blinked. He had done it for one reason only. Revenge never hurries. It waits in the shadows, wearing a janitor's uniform. The next morning the executives arrived to chaos. Every elevator frozen on the ground floor. Every digital lock reset to a single 6-digit code no one could guess. And on the marble lobby wall, written in perfect block letters with industrial red paint. You sold what was never yours. Richard Harlan screamed for maintenance. Maintenance called the only man who had keys to every mechanical room. Eddie. He arrived 20 minutes later, still in the same gray uniform, eyes calm. Looks like a system-wide failure, Mr. Harlan. Might take days to fix. Harlan's face twisted. I don't have days. We closed the sale in 72 hours. Eddie simply shrugged. Building's old, sir. Full of secrets. That night the real games began. Security cameras looped the same empty footage for hours. Sprinklers on the executive floor turned on at 3 a.m., destroying every paper contract in existence. The Wi-Fi broadcast a single looping video on every screen in the building, grainy footage of the executives laughing while they planned to fire Eddie with 1 month's pay. By sunrise the entire C-suite looked like they hadn't slept in weeks. Harlan cornered Eddie in the basement corridor, eyes bloodshot. You're behind this, aren't you? Eddie met his stare for the first time in 7 years. His voice was quiet. Almost gentle. Mr. Harlan. I've cleaned blood off these floors before. I know how to make stains disappear. But some stains, they belong to the man who made them. He stepped closer. You never once looked at my face. Not once. In 7 years. The final day arrived. The buyers were due at noon. At 11:47 a.m. every executive received the same email. Sender, Edward J. Callahan, owner. Attached was the original deed. Dated 8 years earlier. The building had never belonged to their company. It had always belonged to the janitor. Harlan burst into the lobby to find Eddie standing in the exact center, no longer wearing the gray uniform. Tailored black suit. Crisp white shirt. The same calm eyes. You own this building? Harlan's voice cracked. Eddie looked up at the towering glass atrium he had secretly paid for. I bought it the week your father laughed in my father's face and foreclosed on our family home. Right here. On the 29th floor. He took one slow step forward. Every night I mopped your floors. I was memorizing your sins. Every cruel joke. Every bonus you gave yourselves while cutting pensions. Every time you called me the help. Harlan's face had gone the color of old paper. Eddie's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow filled the entire lobby. You came to sell my building today. Instead, I'm selling all of you. He lifted a single document. Every one of you is now personally liable for the $8 million in fraudulent loans you took against a property you never owned. The banks have been notified. The authorities too. Harlan sank to his knees. Eddie looked down at him the way a man looks at an insect that finally stopped moving. I could have fired you years ago. But fire doesn't teach lessons. Fire is quick. He leaned in until their faces were inches apart. Humiliation that lasts forever. Security escorted the weeping executives out through the same revolving doors they had strutted through for years. Eddie stood alone in the now silent lobby. He reached into his jacket and pulled out the old gray janitor's name tag. For a moment he stared at the word Eddie. Then he dropped it into the trash. The building was finally his. And the real work was only beginning.